Today's show is brought to you by Hopsterette.com. Grown in the esteemed Yakima Valley on the Pewterball family farm, Hopsterette.com offers the widest variety of hops available online at incredibly competitive pricing. It's simple. They grow hops, they sell hops, and they ship hops straight from their family-owned farm to your doorstep. Producing the highest quality hops is Hopsterette.com's passion, and they're proud to be an independent grower in the craft beer industry. Go to Hopsterette.com right now and get what you need to make your brew day better. That's Hopsterette.com. Today's show is brought to you by Imperial Yeast. You hear us gushing over Imperial Yeast all the time, and that's because their yeast performs for us in every batch that we brew. Imperial Yeast is adored by commercial breweries and home brewers alike. Their pitch-right pouches are jam-packed with over 200 billion fresh yeast cells, guaranteed to deliver flawless, fast fermentations every time. Imperial Yeast strains are grown by a team of pro brewers and home brewers who live to help other brewers learn more and ferment better. Join any recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club and get a free upgrade to premium Imperial Yeast with every recipe kit that ships out to you. Learn more at homebrewhappyhour.com/club and come brew with us.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Jockey Bots Coils versus cold plates, correcting undercarbonated bottles, how much top clearance do my kegs need in a kegerator, and signs that liquid backflowed into my regulator. Man, that's a lot of words. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 305. It was a lot of words. Welcome back to another episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com, click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them into 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stubing. Joining us, I didn't think he would. I'm so happy he's here. He's the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com over there, Mr. James Carlson, as well as the President and Chief Keg Washer of kegconnection.com, Mr. Todd Burns. James, let me cut out the music. You're in a cabin. You're in the woods.
Yeah.
And you have internet.
I do.
That's the most impressive. You're like isolated, and well, that's how I know we're living in the future. You're like in the middle of nowhere, and you have like 200 megabyte internet. You were telling me.
Yeah, and I got Gracie right here.
Of course, the sweet Gracie. Look at her. Wait a second. Does she know I'm on the show? That's the same look she gives me when she's in the office. Just the. I don't trust
She's
her.
always looking. She's always watching me.
And then I got to ask, too, before I start talking about the beer you're drinking and your vacation. Did you get new headphones? I like them.
Yeah.
New headset? Did you lose your last pair?
No, they're in the oldest. These have better microphone.
I was just saying, no, look, yeah, I haven't seen those before. I remember a pair. Oh, no, the pair you lost were earbuds. That was a while ago, too.
Yeah, those were Bose.
I remember when
sports.
I was with you when you bought them, and you lost them.
Yeah, in Prague. We were doing a podcast, and I left them on the nightstand in my room.
Yeah. Yeah, we did not get those back, or you didn't get those back, I should say. But you're an hour behind us, I believe. So, but it's still past noon your time. So, what did you crack open? You showed us some of the beer.
This is from Sierra Blanca Brewing Company. It's a brown ale called Bone Chiller, and it's excellent. I'm going to try to remember to bring some back so y'all can try it. It's really good. And then I also got. When I go to New Mexico, I just get New Mexico beer because they have awesome beer. This is the same brewing company, and it's a Desert Pils. It's a very, very good Pilsner. And then Todd and I, we actually have been to this brewery in Albuquerque, and this is a wheat beer from Marble.
So we went to that brewery when we were picking up the Jeeps.
Yep.
So okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I think we were the oldest people in that room.
Is that the brewery? Is that the same place? Okay, where like you told me it was like a record scratch, like, and then when y'all walked in.
old men doing in here?
What are these old men? Yeah, that's funny because Todd, you're like the common denominator in those stories. Remember when we went into the young people's brewery in Dusseldorf when Stefan's friend was like, Brewery Kutze. Oh, actually, he was American. He said, Brewery Kutze. It's like where the young people hang out. Y'all should go there. And we walk in, and it was very like, what are y'all doing here? I wasn't balding yet, though, or I wasn't as bald. So I was like, what is this old man doing here? But no, I like that policy of you're on the road. You've had, what good beer you like from Texas or wherever else. But if you're going to be, what do they say? Like, when in Rome, right? You're just keeping yourself to the local beer. I like that. Are any breweries anywhere near you that you could visit? Or
there's actually one here in Fredericksburg in Ruidoso. It's kind of a long dirt road back into town. So I've just hold myself up here. I've got more than enough food. I'll probably have to end up throwing some out, I'm set. I haven't left this place. Yeah, I got here about exactly 3:00. Couldn't figure out how to get the code for the door, but finally got settled in. I cooked a big old pot of spaghetti and just watched the election coverage and had beers. And that's pretty much, I've just been having beers and sitting on the porch watching the deer walk by.
That's good.
That's much better. Yeah.
That's a really neat looking place. I'm going to have to get that information from you.
Oh, this place is phenomenally nice. I mean, it is the biggest little cabin I've ever seen. It's awesome. Yeah, you guys would love it.
I just like the isolation. That'd be great. And you're in Ruidoso. Is there any snow yet, or no snow?
No.
Okay.
No. In fact, when I got here, it was 67 degrees.
Dang.
Yesterday it was kind of cloudy in the 50s, and today the sun's back out, but it's colder.
Okay, that's perfect. I mean, unless you're going, we've been skiing in Ruidoso before, and it was like in February when I was a kid, so it was like snow season. It was winter, but I didn't know when first snow is there. And also, everyone's kind of having an unseasonably warm fall right now. And I think my thing says it's 84 here in San Marcos. I was sweating like a pig, though, like it was 104, but I just had the spiciest curry of my life. Todd, I got to take you to this place when you come into San Marcos next time.
I'm in. I am in.
Right down the hill from me. And James, you just got to find a reason to come to San Marcos. But
yeah,
it reminded me.
54 today. It'll be 44 tomorrow.
That's like a 30-degree swing between us and you. But you're also considerably higher elevated than I am in San Marcos.
Over 6,000 feet.
Yeah.
So over a mile up.
How was the drive? You did it straight, right? Because it's, 12 hours?
Yeah. It wasn't that far. It was, I left at 8:00 in the morning and I got here at 3.
Oh, that's not terrible. Okay. And because
it's about 7-hour drive.
Because that was your check-in? You timed it like, I'm going to get there when I can check in?
I was just rough guessing because I pulled through McDonald's and grabbed a burger, but I never stopped. I had to get gas once.
Dang. So I like it. You're
a long drive.
A man of efficiency, though. Gracie did okay on the drive?
Yeah. Yeah, she did good.
I love it. Yeah, like I said, in my small talk on the notes that you didn't get, I was going to mention how you were on vacation because, again, you're too nice. Like, yeah, I thought you were doing the nice guy. I could be on the show. I don't mind. And I was like, I'm not going to bother him. When I'm on vacation, I know you don't mind. That's what I'm saying, though. You're making me look bad, James Charleston, because when I go on vacation, we record the week ahead of time. We do 2 episodes because Todd will be like, well, we can record while you're on vacation. I'm like, no, we're not. I'm going to be on vacation. But you're like, no, man, I don't mind. But
no, I really don't. I mean, I got, Todd, you'll like this. Went to a used bookstore and I bought Flags of Our Fathers.
Oh, nice. That's
cool. It's a good read. I got it for $2.50.
I thought that was a movie, wasn't it? Or they made a movie after it? Yeah.
They I think Clint Eastwood directed.
There you go.
That movie. Yeah.
Good stuff.
It's a deep dive for sure.
Other things in the small talk. Todd and I survived opening weekend. You hadn't heard anything about it yet, James, but it was a lot of masculine, testosterone-filled fun with Todd's friends and me. I am regretful to report back. A lot of people in our audience were curious if I was going to get those wrestling matches. Here's the thing about men in their mid to late 50s. They all talk big in the group chat. They get drunk. They talk big when they're drinking. But then when it comes down to it, all of a sudden, they're all like, I would, but my shoulder. Oh, my shoulder. Or, oh, I would, but my back. Oh, but you're lucky my back's hurt, Josh. Here's the one thing they all agreed on, though, James. 20 years ago, them would have whooped my ass. They all said that. They're like,
which is true, because 20 years ago you were kind of a wuss.
No, but I'm saying, but today's Josh would have murdered the 37-year-old versions of y'all. Period.
I don't know. I've only wrestled you one time and I won. That's all I know.
Yeah, that's what got me. That was my villain origin story. Was losing to you. Were what, 42? How old were you 14 years ago when that happened?
I don't know. I don't even know how old I am now. 55. I'm 55 now. So
you're like 41. So yeah. So I'm almost as old as that. When some 41-year-old beat up some 23-year-old, I was like, I got to do something with my life. And not that long after is when I started training. But anyways, opening weekend was a blast. Todd made a joke at your expense on Instagram of you making sausage or handling sausage. I forgot how I worded it. But let me just say, James, he made us, was it from Batchstrap? You made us chicken fried venison.
Oh, I love that. That's my favorite.
It was
deer meat.
incredible.
Yeah.
Holy
soak
moly.
it in buttermilk and pound it out, salt, pepper, and bread it. That's the only way to eat backstrap.
Dude.
I like the fact that when you made the somewhat disparaging comment on Homebrew Happy Hour, that my wife's the one that sent the derogatory joke back to you.
Oh yeah, she did. But she also she's the one who supplied the photo, so it's kind of her fault that I got that photo. I was already home.
So I've actually in the we should probably move on to homebrew stuff, but I actually have made like 60 something pounds of sausage in the last 3 weeks. So yeah.
You say we should move on. There's a whole subgenre of our audience, and I'm talking hundreds of people who are interested in that too. It's like, it's not home brewing, it's not a beverage, but just that whole homestead type of, like when I do posts about your garden, Todd, and when I do posts about you processing deer, there's a ton of interaction and DMs and stuff. It's crazy. Yeah. We'll have to start the Happy Hunter Hour podcast.
There you go. I'm in.
Have you do that?
Happy gardening hour.
Well, I bought Homestead Happy Hour, I think a long time ago, because I was like, that could be a fun show, but we don't have time.
My phone keeps going off. I don't know how to turn it off because I'm not good at technology, Josh. You're gonna have to show me.
Technology is hard. We do have a couple more things. If you're in our Trub Club and you're in the recipe receiving tier this month, let me put it on the screen. Bam! This was Todd's decision. I think this is going to be one of the more popular options. Guys, we're brewing a Sierra Nevada Celebration clone, the Hoppy Holiday Ale, shipping out with Imperial's flagship strain. I know y'all will agree that is of the style of a hoppy ale and IPA. It's one of the better ones, James. It's very
versatile.
Every year, Todd always buys, I don't know about a case. I think you buy at least a sixer of it. And with that and the Anchor Christmas beer, and
I'm anxious to brew it. I hope we get the ingredients in fast enough so I can brew it for Christmas.
Yeah, and that's the idea. Doing it for November is so everyone has it for their Christmas time. That we don't want to do it in December and then it not be ready for your holidays. This is a holiday drinking kind of beer. So
I would like to be included on that. So yeah.
Order the stuff, man. Are you talking about the yeast? Do we have?
Oh, you need me to order the hops, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, let me check my email again to see if you sent me that list you were going to send me this morning.
Oh crap! I did say I was going to send you a list. I say a lot.
No email. That's the reason it hadn't been ordered.
I say a lot of things. So yes, go to homebrewhappyhour.com/club, or actually go directly to patreon.com/homebrewhappyhour. Join the recipe receiving tier. If you join the $50 club, you're going to get this month. If you join the $35 club and you're very nice to me or suck up to me, or just if I know you, because most of the time our audience, people joining it, I have some semblance of who you are. We'll hook you up. Only one person in the history of Club has burned us, and you are dead to me, sir. You're dead to me. But no, they joined the 35. They're like, oh no, I can't wait to brew forever. And then they dropped out after I gave them a recipe for $35. But anyway, I'm not bitter at all. We do have 4 questions on this week's episode. Before we get to that, my friends, it's time for listener feedback. This This week we have actual feedback. I listened to it this time. I was very thorough. Not only does he say the word feedback, but it's legitimate feedback from our buddy Dan from New Jersey.
Hey guys, this is Dan from New Jersey. Just have some feedback from your last, I guess, 2 episodes ago now, because it's Wednesday, so you probably recorded this week's episode already. Anyway, in regards to boiling wort, I don't think you need to do it for a full 30 minutes. I know I have seen on Brewlosophy they've done it to 185 and held it there for 60 minutes. So boiling it for 15 should probably be okay. Disclaimer, I'm not an expert. Also, I have a friend who owns a brewery, and they will do a double batch with an IPA where they put all the hops in the initial batch with the 60-minute boil, and then the second batch is just the wort for only 30 minutes or so, and then they combine the two. So I don't think there's too many issues with doing a shorter boil. You just might have to look at your boil-off rates. I love the show. Keep up the good work. Also, yes, I'm saving up for a Brautag. My wife says it needs to be deeply discounted in order for me to get it. So I think I've got 5 or 6 years of feedback to leave, and I'll be there. So I'll see you in 5 or 6 years for that. Take care. Bye.
Actually, Dan,
That's a plan.
not only with your $25 gift card, but it's on sale for $500 off right now, site-wide at kegconnection.com, 10% off, which makes the Brautag a very reasonable offer. Plus, it qualifies for the flat rate $9.95 shipping. So you can't get a 20-gallon, which to yield 15-gallon batches. You can't get that size Herm system for that price. I promise you, not at that quality. We've had a lot of good feedback on the Brautag systems. But yeah, Dan's feedback was real feedback this year. And I told y'all last week, I think, James, we've been getting a ton of people who have been responding to that. Like the short boil is, to me, it's almost, I mean, the feedback isn't in such quantity that I'm going to say it's a majority of people, but it reminds me of when we talk about secondary fermentation and people call in or write in and tell me, I don't even do that anymore. The short boil feels like that. We're like, yeah, I just do the short boil now. I do a 30-minute or I do whatever, we've said this a million times, despite what some people say about us on Reddit. We're not experts in and by not that, I mean, what works for you, keep doing it. If that's what's working for you. That was a lot of words just to say that.
Yeah. I mean, I would say you could probably do a short boil, but a lot of it depends on what hops you're using, So
Yeah, it's all about hop utilization, I think.
I mean, yeah, if you're doing an IPA and you're going to put a lot of bittering hops in the front and a lot of other hops in it and do a whole schedule, then you need that 60 minutes. If you're doing a very light blonde or something like that, and you're just going to put some very minimal hops, no boiling hops, maybe. I mean, it's certainly possible, but I wouldn't say that you can just now say, okay, I'm just going to brew all my recipes
good point.
And boil for 15 minutes. I think it depends a lot on the style that you're brewing,
absolutely, and
what you're trying to achieve with during your brew day.
Right,
so,
right, and I'm thank you for verbalizing that, because I just took it for granted. That was an assumed. Like, you're absolutely right, though. You wouldn't do that on the breakfast stout. I'm not going to or any other. I mean, yes, like you said, it's circumstantial. So it's all
about the bittering and the hops. It's just not going to happen in 15 minutes. So,
right.
If you're wanting a 60-minute bittering edition, you're going to need to boil up for 60 minutes, because you're not going to get that kind of hop bitterness with a short boil. It just won't happen. It needs time to convert. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's just science, right? Allegedly. Yeah. I say that, but still some
yeah.
Go ahead. No,
go ahead. I'm sorry. No, we probably should research it more. I mean, I think there's some other things that happen in the boil that can be important for a lot of styles too, but we may, this would be a great question for Horst, wouldn't it? I bet he would tear us to pieces on this question, right?
He would.
Yeah.
But with constructive criticism, though.
Constructive criticism, but I bet, I could be wrong, but I'd bet $5 he could give us reasons for a longer boil time if we could get him to answer the question sometime.
We'll get him on the show soon.
Yeah.
He's told us to always reach out.
A lot of German breweries, they do a 90-minute boil.
Yep.
And they do it because they're using unmodified malts. They're wanting full conversion on the hops. And also, supposedly will help prevent DMS from forming in the wort. So there's lots of reasons, but my main reason for a 60-minute boil is the isomerization of the hops.
Yeah.
The alpha acids into bittering units just takes time.
Yeah.
And that percentage of efficiency on the hops as far as potential versus actual bitterness units depends on boiling it for a certain length of time. You're just not going to get that kind of efficiency with a 15 to 30-minute boil.
Yeah. And my main reason is because that's what you wrote on the recipe, James. That's why I do it.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say my main reason for a 60-minute boil is that's the way I've always done it. And I don't like change.
And I don't like change. It's terrible. We do, Dan, thank you.
In all seriousness, you guys know I embrace change, right? So
it's true.
Yep.
It's true.
Very true. Yeah.
Dan, thank you so much for submitting that feedback. A great time before I get into the questions. To remind y'all, if and when you leave us a voicemail, feedback, or question, you get a $25 gift card to kegconnection.com, courtesy of Mr. Todd Burns. If you leave us a text message or use the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com, you still get a $15 gift card, which I think is pretty good. So our first question of the week comes from our friend Lindsay, who did send us a text at 325-305-6107. She wrote, "What's the better Jockey bots, Coils or cold plate? I want to buy one for my BF." Think that means boyfriend. Sometimes it means best friend, but I think it's her boyfriend wants to get her. It's gift giving time, guys. This is the time of year we get all these questions of people, either they're brewers and they want to get friends into it, or how to gift their brews, or it's people who their loved ones are reaching out to us through Keg Connection like, "Hey, I know my husband makes his own beer. What can I get him?" And we do all the problem solving. For Jockey bots, is Todd. It's funny. Funny that this question came in last week, because this week we had some Jockey bots orders come through, and we're going through what we have in inventory and all that. Do you even have a preference?
Yeah, I forgot to check on that.
Did you really?
More of those long ones. Yeah, I was just on the phone with him too. Anyway, so there's no perfect answer. Like most questions, a lot of questions, there's no perfect answer here, because it depends on your circumstances. Basically, if your goal is to take warm beer and run it through this and make it nice cold beer, then like 120-foot coil is submersed in ice, super cold ice water. I say ice water, it's ice, but you actually want a little bit of liquid in the ice so that it really cools well. Running it through that 120-foot coil is going to be able, you're going to be able to take it from warm beer to cold beer. So if that's what you're trying to do, then probably the coils would be best. I would say the vast majority of people are running fairly cool beer through there, maybe not ice cold beer, but fairly cool beer through it. And in that case, the cold plate works great. So it kind of depends on what your starting beer temperature is and what you're trying to achieve, and also how fast you want to pour. It's obviously you can pour a lot faster when you have 120 feet of coil in there. We sell a lot more plates than coils. Having said that, they're very, very popular. They work very well. I always somewhat chill my beer before I run it through there. For one thing, most beer's not pasteurized, so I don't want it sitting around warm anyway. So, it's a great thing, particularly if you've got a cold keg and you need to move it out to a front room where you don't have a way to cool it, and you're going to run it through that cold plate. It works really well. But I wouldn't, in the middle of the summer when it's 100 degrees, I wouldn't have my keg at 100 degrees and do it on either one of them, frankly. So
I should have done my homework before, but I was able to pull it up real discreetly while you were talking. Thanks for the cover. Is there a reason the cold plate, it's a good $25 cheaper than the coil? Is it just because there's so much more going on with 120 feet of coil?
I would imagine if we're about to reorder coils. I think we just sold our last one. I would imagine that difference is going to become much greater, because the coils are definitely more expensive.
They are. Okay. Just more material.
Well, particularly when you're talking about maybe on a single cold plate, the difference wouldn't be as much, but when you get into doubles or even larger ones, you're using the same block of aluminum to run the coil in, so you're your cost of that block of aluminum stays the same, and it's just the extra line in it. So I think it's probably gets a lot more expensive when you go to a 2-tap system, because then you got to buy 2 coils versus still buying 1 cold plate with just a little bigger with more line in it.
No, you're right. The jump is astronomical for the 2 faucet 120-foot coil versus the cold plate. But like you said, it's because it's just double the coil, where the other one is just a little bit larger of a cold plate. James, when you're on the road, I've seen your concoctions you've made up with fitting kegs and fridges and all that kind of stuff. But do you care, or do you go the?
I would, if I had a choice, I would do coils over a plate chiller, just because I think they work better. But the one thing that I noticed the difference between the manufacturer of the cold plates that we get is the passages are bigger. So I think a cold plate, if you're going to run flow control, probably be a better option versus the coils that we get. I think they're 1/4 inch ID. Is that right, Todd?
So they change, I believe, on the coil. Mm-hmm. So 100 foot of it is, I don't remember exactly the size. 100 foot of it's larger. I think it may be 3/8.
Okay,
and then and then it goes down to 1/4 for the last 25 feet. That's the way they usually are on the larger ones.
So I don't know how that would affect the way the flow control works on having a V10.
I think it would probably restrict it. It may restrict it. We would have to play around with it to see. I don't know.
Hey, and that may be a reason why we were having so much foaming issues at Homebrew Con is we were using a plate.
We were using a plate there.
Yeah,
that's
never
right.
mind. Yeah. That was weird.
Was it?
Yeah.
It was very strange. I thought we never could quite 100% figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Something. And maybe it was overcarbonation of the beer itself. Maybe it was a combination of we were hot going cold so fast.
Mm-hmm.
It was a nightmare. It's just one of those things that happens, and you just can't figure out why it's doing it. It's like the Christmas party that year. We bought that Shiner keg.
Yeah.
Didn't matter what we did. We couldn't get the foaming to stop. It was terrible.
Yeah. That was the one we did at the hall.
I was convinced by that one we just let it get too warm. Yeah. And that's the problem. We moved everything over there kind of late, and then we put it back in the kegerator. I think the beer was just too warm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I think there was a pressure issue. I think the serving pressure was way high, and we didn't realize it. But anyway, I mean, it can be very frustrating when you have a foaming issue, especially when you have flow control, because then you're like, shouldn't be happening, but sometimes it does.
Something else to consider worth asking, Todd, in regards to cleaning and maintenance, is there much of a difference between the two? Is one easier than the other? It seems like coils are very straightforward to clean. I can't imagine. Same with cold plate, right? You're flushing
the cold plate's identical to it. It really is just coils. It's just coils that are inside of an aluminum block. I mean, you can't get to the inside of either one of them to clean them. I mean, you can't expose it, so
no, you just flush
it. It doesn't really matter. You got to really flush it good and clean it. The key to cleaning something like that, whether it's on your brewing system coil or your jockey box coil, is to clean it immediately when you're done with it. Don't get drunk and wait a week before you clean it, because all that crap's going to be dried up in there and nasty and disgusting.
So hear me out. I have not a phobia, but I'm just very conscientious when I'm at beer festivals and I see these commercial breweries with, these jockey boxes have been sitting in their hot warehouse. Those guys who are a little bit less plastered than the people they're serving aren't cleaning it immediately afterwards. I bet you.
I don't know that. I mean,
I think
most of those guys are brewers. Brewers clean all the time. They clean everything. I mean, I can't imagine that a brewer would just let something sit for a week after they used it.
Do you call me a brewer? Am I a brewer? I'm not a brewer.
Of course you're a brewer. Do you make beer?
Yeah, I do.
You drink that beer you make?
I do.
You're a brewer.
I watch my dad make beer. No, I'm kidding.
I don't want to comment.
I'm on Desert Pilsner now.
Nice.
Dang. Hey, boss, can I open beer up too?
Absolutely. Let's have a beer.
I can't. I don't want to walk into my fridge. But But yeah, so I besides all that, I don't, with equipment like this, do y'all think it's uncouth for her to just ask her boyfriend for his preference? I mean, like, because he might have, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think the only way she's going to know, in my opinion, to get this is because she's heard him mention it. Jockey Bots is not a common piece of equipment. It's not in the common vernacular if you're not also a brewer too, which, Lindsay, I'm not saying, I don't know anything. I haven't replied to you except to tell you that you got a $15 gift card, but assuming that she's not a brewer or that she might not be a brewer, and it might not be the worst thing just to ask her boyfriend, hey, what kind of Jockey Bots, right? Because also the reason I say that too is Jockey Bots is very niche for home brewers. Not a ton. Not every home brewer has a Jockey Bots because they're circumstantial. It's like, do you want to serve beer on the go or at a party? And not all of us have friends to have parties and go places with. So I don't like. It's
just so we're clear, I am going to get another coil in, and I mean not another coil. I'm going to get some more coils in and get that listing back up, because you're fixing the listing right now, and it's going to be beautiful soon for the single and double.
That's right.
And we'll have the coils back on the website. I'm going to commit to doing that by next week. How about that?
I like that. Perfect.
I mean, I'm going to commit to getting the stuff in. You're going to commit to having the site. Well, you just did. Never mind.
I did.
You just committed to
I did.
it. Yeah.
I committed. Head shaking. Anyways, Lindsay, if you have additional questions or need help customizing, that's what these guys exist for. Call Keg Connections line at 325-356-5204, or you can email tburns@kegconnection.com. You can email jcarlson@kegconnection.com. You can email help@kegconnection.com, and I will forward you to both of those guys. But thank you for submitting that question. Moving on to question number 2, also a text message from our buddy Brian T, who used our hotline at 325-305-6107. Brian wrote, I have a stout that's been bottle conditioning for 3 weeks. The first couple appear to be undercarbonated. Is there anything I can do to save the rest of my stout bottles? Keg. No, I'm kidding. Well, no, I'm not really kidding. You should be kegging, but he has, let's assume he has a batch's worth left of bottles. Let's just say it's like 30 bottles, and he's opened up 2. They're undercarbonated. You can't open them and throw tablets in and recarb them, but
yeah, you might be able to.
Well, so hear me out. I was going to think, maybe if he moves it to, I don't know what he's storing them at. What if he just moved them to a room, like bump up the temperature a little and see if he can reinvigorate some of the yeast to work and finish carbonating or get it back up? Or is that a dumb suggestion?
I mean, I've always had just the opposite problem. When I bottle condition, I typically overcarbonate the bottles. I've never had them undercarbonate. I probably would if I bottled again, because I'm so paranoid about overcarbonating them, right? I mean, I would think that if he had sugar in there, the yeast would have eaten the sugar. Maybe he didn't get enough sugar in there. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, he also has the risk of adding more sugar and overcarbonating the hell out of them. I don't know. James, do you have any ideas at all on that?
I don't know. I don't know if I would risk trying to. I mean, Josh, you may be onto something. It depends on how long what temperature they were stored at. So if they were stored cold at 3 weeks, then kind of defeats, especially after they've been bottled. You want a warm room temperature, not warm, but room temperature for that to finish out carbonation. So I guess if he did that for 3 weeks at room temp and at undercarb, there's not a whole lot I could do to save it. You might try a sample batch with a carbonating tab, but you're risking possibly having bottle bombs. I don't know if I would just take my loss and drink the stout. The good thing about a stout is you can kind of drink it a little undercarb.
That's what I was about to say. I was just saying, it's not the worst.
It's a lot of the English ales are undercarb, the cask ales, and they're delicious. So
yeah. Well, the breakfast stout, which, by the way, I took home all the ingredients I could. I got to go to SoCo this week and get some Type 3 Carafa and some chocolate malt. But I'm going to brew the breakfast stout. But 1 year, I gave it to Todd. It was last year. Remember, Todd? I gave it to you undercarb. And at your party, you force carbed it before it, but I actually kind of liked it when it was undercarb. I mean, I liked it both ways, but I was like, oh, thank God this is a style that lends itself well to being slightly under the perfect carbonation. And I'm doing air quotes for audio listeners.
Well, I mean, that's but it is the perfect carbonation if it's at 8 or 10, the equivalent of 8 or 10 psi serving pressure, because that is what a stout's supposed to be served at, right? So,
well, it's supposed to. It's too subjective.
And I don't talk a lot in volumes of carbonation because I think it's really confusing to a lot of people. There's really
people don't know volumes; they know pressure.
They know pressure, so they're 9 psi is going to be a certain volume, but how do you know what that volume is unless you pressure it to 9 psi and get it to unless you have a carbonation tester. You almost have to use pressure to be able to determine what your volumes are. So
that's true.
Before we close out this question, there was a guy who left feedback through a channel that I always complain about, and said something to the effect of how, like, I don't know what I'm talking about, and he cringes. So with that in mind, let me tell y'all my cringe idea of the day. It's the new segment. Let me hit that. It's time for cringe idea. What if they take the bottle and they pour it into one of those 20 ounce or liter is cleaned out, sanitized liter bottles, put the carbonation cap on it, force carb that pour, and then drink it from there, Todd?
Yeah, absolutely. You could do that. You just got to make sure you don't
oxygenate.
That you don't oxygenate it. So you'd have to really purge the hell out of that. Maybe you could purge the bottle completely and then
close transfer through the carbonation cap. No, it's going to
transfer.
It's going to splash.
I think you'd want to drink it really quick.
Yeah,
that's the key.
My second cringe idea was going to be pour enough to get into a keg and then carb it there.
No.
Go like this.
Yeah, do the 2 liter purge. Do the 2 liter, purge it, carbonate it, and drink it before it oxygenates.
Yeah, or oxidates.
Oxidizes. Like a keg of Coors Light at a party.
There you
That's
go.
Right.
Yeah. And if y'all like the cringe moment of the day, y'all let me know. I'm going to make that a segment. Y'all, the some people with their feedback and they think it gets under my skin, actually, it inspires me to do better. And by better, I mean the things you hate. I actually learned that from Todd Burns. Todd Burns there taught me to not ever share my weaknesses with him because he will exploit them.
He will exploit them at math.
Yes. See, you know that too, James. You know that too. You're a victim. If we ever did group therapy, we'd have a lot to talk about. But anyway.
Oh, yeah, y'all would. I'd be like that guy on that Geico commercial, the Sarge.
Oh, you're the worst.
You jackwagons.
Yeah, you jackwagons. All right, Brian, thank you so much for submitting that question. Moving on to our third question of the week of this show. It's from our buddy Charles, who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Charles wrote, how much clearance do you suggest a kegerator has between the top of the keg and the ceiling of the fridge? My teaser died this summer, but I found a cheap dorm fridge on Facebook Marketplace. The issue is that it's going to be a tight fit. Shimmy the keg into place tight. I have ball lots if that helps you. I love the podcast. Hope you take my question. Charles. James, for some complete transparency, I took a bunch of equipment and stuff questions because I didn't think you'd be on, and I can hold my own.
Well, that's definitely a Todd question.
I was going to say, that's why I feel bad because I was about to throw this one to Todd too. I was like, Todd, he has ball lots, so my first suggestion was going to be get low profile disconnects, but those are really just for pin locks, and which is why I love pin locks, because their clearance is already low, and then you can get those disconnects. But he has ball locks. How can he make his ball lock fit in something that's a shimmy in, like basically?
Well, I mean, he said it fits. If it fits, then it's fine. You don't have to have any clearance as long as he can get it in there with the hose on.
Well, which I'm assuming that's what he meant, but you're right.
I'm assuming that too. Yeah,
because you're right. If he, the worst thing is he bought it, or he took a keg to when he was going to see it, and it would fit on its own, and he forgot the.
Oh yeah.
That'd be the worst case.
If only the keg fits in, then it's not going to work.
Right, yeah. Because you do have to have. How much is a ball lock on top of it? A 2-inch addition from the top of the. It's like 1.5 inches. It adds above the handle.
I mean, you're just making stuff up. I don't know. I'd have to measure it.
Yeah, that's the story.
Yeah, if
that's
you
the title of my memoar.
took the top of a corny keg with a ball lock disconnect, it's probably going to be about an inch.
Right, an inch. Okay.
You got to remember that you can't just adjust for the disconnect. You also have to adjust for the fact that it's angled, and you probably got a swivel nut, and the hose is going to go up taller than so you got to adjust for the hose too. Believe me, I've been down this road before. You've got to make sure that it fits with the hose on it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So do we have an amount for that? Or I guess we can.
No.
Okay.
We'd have to measure it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, we're not just going to make stuff up.
Whoa. Who's this?
Yeah, I could measure it for you.
Who's this we?
I could measure. I've measured it many times. I just don't remember off the top of my head.
I've measured it many times
you.
Too.
I will measure it after the show.
Me too.
And you can do it in the show notes.
Okay. In the shower? I thought that's what you were going to say. I measured in the shower. I measured
like 2 inches, right?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Babe, it's huge.
2 inches.
We're talking about disconnects.
I have to get my hammer out now.
Oh, that's a ball peen hammer. I like that.
Oh, yeah.
God.
I don't know.
Toilet humor.
Summon the trolls.
Summon them. I love that I just had to say I measured all the time, and Todd knew exactly what I was meaning. Like he was talking about the keg of your face. That was fantastic. That's worth going to youtube.com/homebrew happy hour, my friends. His face when it clicked.
It was 6 inches.
Yeah, it was this big. The fish is always this big. With you're like you said, Todd, you can't. On the gas side, it may not be as important if there's a little crimp, but I mean, pardon me. Let me back up. You have to have your lines uncrimped from the pressure of something so that your lines work adequately, air and liquid. If you have any crimping or whatever, it's going to totally mess up. You can't balance a draft system like that. Like you have to have some clearance. So I would say, to Charles, if you had already bought the fridge because it was a heck of a deal on Facebook Marketplace, maybe this is the time for you to get into pinlock kegs, because if your ball lock keg did fit in it, I bet you a pinlock keg with the short disconnect.
Well, a converted one would also work.
Oh, good point. Then he wouldn't have to change his disconnects.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great point. I'm gonna recommend Charles to call Todd.
The absolute shortest option are the short disconnects and pinlock on a short pinlock keg. Yeah.
Right.
Or he could also, he could always use like a 2.5 or 3 gallon keg as well.
Oh, there you go. You're right. That is another option. He could throw a couple in there. He could still brew his 5-gallon batches. Yeah. And then throw a couple of those kegs in there. And then let's assume, I didn't ask him any of these questions. Let's assume he has a 1-tap faucet. He could still pour until one's empty, then just switch the lines to the other one. I like that solution too, Todd. That's creative, because then clearance can't be a hindrance. He would just, and he'll have, who doesn't want to have an extra keg? That's actually that's a great idea. And they're on sale at kegconnection.com. See how I tie everything in together? Man,
that's good.
I'm so good at my job, Todd. But
it's too bad they don't make a 90 tank adapter where you unscrew the post and it's a machine 90-degree adapter that screws onto the tank fitting, and then the post screws onto it and the disconnects click in on the side. So then you don't have, but there's probably not enough people that would need that to facilitate manufacturing.
And you're describing basically a low-profile commercial coupler. I don't even know Todd, do you still carry those?
Yes.
Yeah, because those were popular with people for clearance purposes, because you twist them on and they're 90s right below where you're putting it on the spear or on the keg, where you're coupling it together with the commercial keg, and it just 90s out. That would be smart to do 90 adapters. Yeah. That would be real nice. But yeah, I would say, Charles, do your measurements and call Todd Burns at 325-356-5204 for a customized ordering solution. Because the worst thing is now his teaser died. He gets a hell of a deal, and now he can't use it with his existing keg. But I digress. We'll help you out. We'll get you made. We'll make sure you're taken care of.
If it's a Keezer, I'll say this: he can, if it's got a lid on the top, he can put a collar and space it up move the lid up, and he's golden.
No, that was what. Yes, that was his keezer died in the summer, and he found a dorm fridge on Marketplace. And dorm fridge too, I've learned, is not a standard of measurement, Todd. Dorm fridge has
not at all. No.
I've gone to Home Depot, asked about dorm fridges, and they'll give me suggestions as much, the tiny little ones, all the way up to ones like the Edge Stars we use for kegerators. All of those are in the realm of dorm fridge. I wish there was a more niche thing within the genre of dorm fridge. But anyways, Charles, thank you so much for submitting that question. We've got one final question for you this week. Our fourth question comes from our buddy Robert, who also used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Robert wrote, "Fellas, I messed up. New to kegging here, and I put my gas line connection on the beer output post of my Cornelius keg that I bought from Keg Connections." He did use plural. Don't do plural. That goes to a different website, kegconnection.com. It was pretty much a full day before realizing my mistake. My regulator seems to be functioning fine. I'm scared I might have damaged something. What should I do to make sure liquid didn't make its way into my regulator? What are some signs I need to look out for? Thanks, Josh, for suggesting I submit this to the podcast for some of Todd's money. LOL. I did suggest that. He called. He didn't call in. He wrote in to help. And I was like, Robert, that's a great question to submit, and I can give you some of Todd's money. But he had bought a keg kit from us. He has, all the components, and he made the mistake we've done frequently before, or putting the wrong connection on the wrong post. And for me, my biggest worry was always, oh crap, how am I going to get it off? Because it's always a pain in the butt with the ball locks. Well, you can't technically do it with pin locks, but with the ball lock post.
You could probably figure it out.
You're talking about me.
We have total faith.
You're talking about me specifically. Yes, I could put the wrong pin lock on the wrong post. Me, I'm the only idiot in the world. But with the ball lock ones, it happens all the time. In fact, if you disassemble your kegs, sometimes you put the wrong post on the wrong side anyway. If your keg's labeled, I was looking at you, James. If you're,
I've done that.
if your keg,
they'll feed either way.
yeah, exactly. They will. So it happens. It's not the biggest deal. I'm gonna say, guys, that this is much ado about nothing, because if his regulator is working and gas is going down, I can't imagine it coming back up through it.
Well, there's a check valve on the shutoff.
That's what I was just saying. There's a check valve on all the regulators that he's getting from Keg Connection have check valves on them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and if it's an air distributor, those also have check valves.
It was a one keg kit, and so
I'm just saying, if somebody has a kit with a air distributor and it doesn't have a check valve on the regulator, it's because it has one on every single valve on the air distributor's a check valve as well. So technically, it can't go backwards. I think he's fine. I mean,
yeah.
If somehow or another he got it to go backwards in the regulator, I think it would be super obvious. I think he's fine.
Well, that's why. Well, so let's cover it. Is there anything blatant that you like? Would the regulator just stop working? Like, what are some signs?
Just unscrew the swivel nut off the regulator and see if beer comes out.
No, that is the best way to troubleshoot if it's in there. But I mean, like, how would you know if he didn't realize he had done that? Would the regulator just stop working? I'm just trying to ease his mind, because some people, Todd, like me, who are totally in the dark on things, catastrophize in my brain, like, oh my God, it's going to get in the regulator, and that's going to get into the tank, and it's going to explode. And I'm making stuff up and being hyperbolic, but like, what is it? Is there any telltale signs that, yes, your regulator has liquid in it?
No.
Okay. It's just, okay. That's fair enough.
No, it's not. If a regulator stops working, you're not going to immediately assume it's because it has liquid in it until you take the stuff off and liquid comes out.
Now, here's a kind of relevant retail question. Is that covered under the Keg Connection warranty for either the regulator?
No.
Okay. User error. I like that.
User error is not covered. So if you drop your regulator and you smash the gauge, that's not covered under the warranty. If the regulator stops working mechanically, that's covered under the warranty. So it doesn't cover anything that you do where you say, oh crap, afterwards.
I'm going to digress a little, but it's the most relatable digression I could to the topic that I've probably ever done on the show. Do you remember that commercial customer that brought in a regulator? Over the phone, they're like,
vividly.
Yeah, they're like, over the phone, they're like, we don't know why the regulator just stopped working. The gauges don't seem to work. It's not. We're not sure. Maybe you could take a look at it. And they brought it in, and it looked like a guy took a baseball bat to it.
Well, no, that's not even the worst part. The worst part is they took the regulator apart and changed the inlet and outlet so that basically they were feeding high pressure from the tank to their keg.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
So they took the high pressure inlet off that basically goes to the. See, what happened was they were putting it on a bulk tank. So the guy took all the stuff off because he's like, well, I don't need this nipple because it's going to a bulk tank. I just need a hose barb. So he used the hose barb on the outlet and used that as the inlet, and then however he did it, he basically, thank God somebody had a regulator upstream. So it wasn't pushing 800 pounds of pressure. He was pushing maybe 40 pounds or 50 pounds or 60 pounds of pressure. So
everything's foamy.
So that was an absolute perfect scenario. I actually thought about this incident earlier in the show when you talked about how our beer's foaming and we can't figure out why because we have flow control. Well, the guy that owned the place, great guy, by the way, he called me up. He's like, Todd, I don't know about these flow control faucets. I mean, they're foaming like crazy. So I drive down there at night and first of all, I figure out that, it's pretty warm in their walk-in. They were just still doing training, so they were opening and closing the door constantly. No. So it's pretty warm in their walk-in. I was like, oh, it's a temperature issue. And then I start looking at it, and I'm like, ooh, these kegs have like 50 or 60 pounds of pressure, and I don't know how long they've had that. So he had a really high temperature and extremely overcarbonated beer, and there ain't no flow control going to fix that, right?
There ain't no flow control to fix that. Yeah, that's my nightmare is having a vessel pressurized, or the potential for it to have been catastrophically overpressurized. That would have been terrible.
Now, it could have blown all the kegs up.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it was
literal blow up. We're not talking about like
it could have been a sad mess.
Yeah.
The gas hoses would have exploded hopefully before the kegs exploded, because they're not rated to handle anywhere near that pressure. They were just standard, 60 psi rated, which they go up to 100 and something psi before they'll blow up like a balloon.
Okay, you're talking about the standard old vinyl tubing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd hope that would happen first, Scott. When I recommended to recarbonate, put in the 1 liter. I wouldn't even try that because I'm terrified of.
Well, and just so people aren't scared of regulators after me telling that story, you got to understand that this regulator was completely disassembled. All 4 components. So it's got 2 gauges, an inlet, and an outlet. And everything was reversed and put back together in reverse. I mean, I don't think I don't think most people would do that.
No, I'm not taking it apart. I'm bringing it up there to you.
By the way, that's not covered under the warranty either.
As you fix their problem, did you tell them that?
No, I fixed it. But you know me, I always end up fixing everything anyway.
With Robert's question, I think we got to there is nothing to worry about, and that's why. Most retailers do this, and I'm making this episode into an infomercial, but that's why Keg Connection, Todd is so insistent on the check valves where they are in the draft system to prevent this, because accidents happen and things out of your control. This was a user error putting the disconnect on the wrong post, but it happens. And to prevent backflow can happen even if your gas disconnect is on the correct post and the tank is overfilled and you don't have check valves to prevent that from happening. It can. I'm not saying it's possible.
What can happen?
Backflow into a airline if you didn't have check valves in place. You don't think if the keg
if it was anytime you have a negative, you'd have to have a negative pressure situation,
right? But I'm just saying it's possible for it to happen.
Yeah, it is if you didn't have any check valves. Yeah.
That's what I said.
Yeah,
you were just trying to correct me on. I saw that look in your face. You weren't listening, but you heard enough to think that I put my foot in my mouth.
I was thinking of that earlier comment the listener made.
Hey, jerk. Yeah, I gave the people of Reddit plenty of evidence. I felt bad because they grouped you guys in with me. They said they don't ever know what they're talking about. Like, they're talking about me. Just tag me next time you talk crap about me. But
no, I'm sure they're talking about all of us. So
yeah.
That's Reddit.
I'm just gonna have a bumper that comes up every time we do an answer. Not expert opinions. Like
Yeah.
We've always said we're just home brewers, just like everybody listening, and that's the appeal. Is I certainly try real hard not to talk over somebody. Keep it in layman's terms. Half the time I can't pronounce those terms correctly anyway. So, we all brew beer. We all have had success and failure, and we're relating that with people that listen. And we appreciate every single one of them.
And
anybody that says they're an absolute expert and knows everything, I would be highly suspect of.
Yeah, buddy. That's what I do in the show notes. I go, my opinions are fact. Todd and James are idiots. Let's go. Episode 305.
No, you're the most self-deprecating person I know. So,
it's true. You know why? Because there's nothing anyone else can say in the world that can hurt me. You can't hurt me. Like I've said worse things about me. I got to this point from working for Todd Burns for almost 15 years.
Yeah, I've worked.
Yeah, he'll thicken that skew. That's for damn
and what's funny is when you hang out with his buddies, I think they've learned, Todd broke him in, because they all talk so much trash to each other, and some of it still gets under their skin.
God, it's hilarious.
It's the best. But when
back and I'm like,
yeah, they're going back and forth.
Cool.
And they'll say something derogatory to me, and I'm just like, yep. But that doesn't bother you? Nope. That's not. You should have heard what Todd said 20 minutes ago. They made that look like freaking.
My friends are brutal. We're all brutal.
They're brutal.
I mean, we've known each other between 30 and 45 years. So yeah,
you and Guy Youngblood have been friends for almost 50 years, dude.
Yeah, 49 years.
Yeah, 49 years. Yeah. And he's one of my favorites. But anyway, Robert, thank you so much for submitting that question. Fellas, that does wrap it up. I know you can hear me, James. Where'd you take off?
Oh, Gracie, she keeps going up to the loft, and it's got carpet. So I'm like, no.
Don't pee.
No.
You weren't even supposed to be on the show. You can do anything. You can do anything you want, James. You've got a card to do anything this show.
That is true.
No,
you can do whatever.
I'm not going to miss an episode. That's for sure.
I love it. I love your commitment, because when I take my vacation later December, we're recording early, or we're not recording at all. But anyways, guys, that's all I have for this week's show. I greatly appreciate y'all's time, especially you, James. Please enjoy the rest of your vacation. Work free. Get off your email. I saw you reply to an email or two. Stop it. You're on vacation. We will see you next week. Todd, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on the submitted question link at the top of the page, or you could be Todd's best friend and leave a voicemail at 325-305-6107. For the best hops available online, give our friends at hopsdirect.com a visit and pick up what you need for your next brew day. Also, get a free pack of Imperial yeast along with delicious premium recipes from us when you join the Trub Club. Go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and come brew with us. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thanks for listening.